Welcome to the week ahead, where the resilience of international agreements are a focus. That's as key meetings take place over the next few days. NATO defence ministers gather for talks in Brussels after a summit last month in which the US president berated allies for chronic underfunding of the alliance. The latest round of trade talks between the EU and Mexico gets underway, and again previous comments from Donald Trump will loom large. And finally, representatives of the insurance industry meet in London to assess the impact of Britain exiting the EU. NATO defence ministers gather for scheduled talks at the Brussels headquarters of the alliance. They'll discuss defence spending, a hot topic after a summit last month at which Donald Trump refused to back its mutual defence pledge, blaming allies for not properly funding the group. US President did later say that he supported Article 5 of NATO's founding treaty, the commitment allies make to come to each other's defence.
Well, this will be a very important meeting because the NATO summit, where Donald Trump met his European counterparts, didn't go very well at all. There was a big row about money, and so everybody will be looking to see if the NATO ministers can put things back on a more secure footing, and in particular if the Europeans can begin to make pledges on spending over NATO that will satisfy the American allies and make sure that NATO remains a secure alliance. They'll also be talking about other crucial subjects, including Afghanistan, where there's a question about whether NATO needs to recommit more troops to try to stabilise the situation there, which people will be very reluctant to do, but they may have to do anyway.
As we heard from Gideon there, while other issues are on the table, money is likely to remain top of minds. National representatives will take stock of preliminary defence spending data for 2017 and final figures for 2016, a year in which spending by European allies and Canada is estimated to have risen by $10 billion or 3.8%. At issue for 2017 is whether they can maintain or even intensify the increase in annual spending. Members have resolved to submit action plans in December on how they aim to meet NATO's target to bring annual spending towards 2% of economic output by 2024. At present, only 5 of the 29 allies meet that threshold. The latest round of talks between the European Union and Mexico begins in Mexico City, but both sides are likely to be preoccupied with the United States.
Trade negotiators for the EU and Mexico will be back in Mexico City this week for their latest round of trade talks, and they're both going to be casting a wary eye on Washington and Donald Trump. The two countries, or the EU and Mexico, have had a trade agreement in place since 2000, and earlier this year they agreed to try and update that, bring it into the 21st century. But Mexico is also getting ready for renegotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement with the US and Canada. That's been high on the trade priorities list for Donald Trump. And the EU is mindful that it has a big negotiation with the US in the deep freeze right now. That's the TTIP negotiations, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership negotiations that were launched under the Obama administration. So it's the EU and Mexico talking, but both of them will have a keen eye on Washington and will be hoping to force some action and gain some attention from there.
Mr. Trump has regularly criticised existing international trade agreements as being harmful to the US economy. Both Mexico and the EU appear eager to use a step up in trade ties between them as leverage in future negotiations with the Trump administration. And finally, the prospects for pan-European business operations post-Brexit will be examined by insurers when they gather in London on Tuesday at a conference organised by the Association of British Insurers.
So insurers are quite uncertain still about what Brexit will mean for them, and a lot depends on whether it's going to be a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit, and I imagine that these issues will come up at the conference next week organised by the Association of British Insurers. Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, tops the bill. She's been in favour of a soft Brexit. She wants the UK to remain within the single market. She might use the conference as a way to highlight what a hard Brexit might do to Scotland's financial services industry, which employs 100,000 people and manages about £800 billion. So it's a big part of the Scottish economy, and she might explain why she thinks it's better for that part of Scotland's economy to remain within the single market. We'll also have the UK government's perspective on it. The new UK City Minister, Stephen Barclay, will be talking. So he'll be giving the government's view on perhaps what it sees for the insurance sector out of Brexit. And we'll also see the view from the continent. There'll be representatives there from the Netherlands, Poland, Sweden and several other countries.
And that's what the week ahead looks like from the FT in London.